Hey guys, so I wanted to do a little update video and talk about a couple of things. The first one is my GoFundMe. So, even like when we started this whole documentary thing, which would have been in I believe June of 2017 is when we did the first trip. Yeah, because we went downstate and we filmed by that river. So, when we did that, we were circling through the first sets of treatment, but we knew that chances were what we were going to end up at was trying to do ketamine treatments. At the time, the type of treatments we were looking at doing were the type of infusion where you go into hospital, and this is now, I believe, mainly done in Florida and not done often anywhere because there is actually a ketamine shortage in the US. But at the time, this was the intention. So, and at the time, they were doing it in Chicago. So what it was is you go into hospital, and for 5 days, you are heavily sedated in hospital, on intubation and everything. They pump you full of ketamine, and there's a good chance that when you get pulled off of that, you are rebooted, essentially. There's a good chance of having remission or at least significant relief from the CRPS. And there really is an actual good chance of remission from it, which, if you've had it for a long time, or you have it in multiple locations in the body, or if you have it systemically, there are just not a lot of ways to get that kind of response. So, even then, I don't know, I think I was maybe just starting to see this doctor in Chicago at that point. I had gone through a pain clinic in Indiana. It had not worked out well. I had gone through their treatments. I may have still been going through those treatments at that point. But I jumped through all of the hoops. I did all of the things that they wanted, and they were not offering me new and innovative treatments at all. The doctor that I've seen in Illinois, I have gone through all of the treatments he has asked of me, and they have been new and innovative and should have worked. I did something called beer blocks, which are where they put anesthetic in the targeted body part. Literally, they replace your blood with anesthetic in that part, under sedation, so that they can do it completely and without your body fighting it, whether subconsciously or literally, because for me it's my leg. Literally, as I understand it, once I was unconscious, they would literally drain all of the blood out of my leg and fill my leg with essentially anesthetic, and then it would remain there for half an hour, whatever, 40 minutes, and then they would reintroduce blood circulation, and then for some people that's has significant pain relief. It didn't work for me, and I did the three course of treatment, which is the recommended. What you start with 3, and if it doesn't work, then you move on. And really, we would have moved on after 2, except that we weren't sure if I'd had relief after one of them. I had skin level relief, or skin level numbness, at least, after one of them. So that's why we ended up doing 3. So I did the dorsal root ganglion stimulator trial last year. There's a video on here of me during that time where I have tubes coming out of me, and it looks like they're coming out of like my shirt because of the way that they're pinned, but they're actually coming out of my back, like right above my bum. And then they're like fed through my clothing, and like they're tucked into, like, I think I'm wearing a tank top in that video. And I wore mainly like low cut things because I had to have something to clip the tubing to. So like they had the tubing fed through, and then I had like clipped, and then I would like put something else on over it. But I did that. And because I said no to the spinal cord stimulator. I flat out refused that. I did my research, and my doctor in Chicago is fantastic. He understands that I know a lot about my condition, and so he respects that I'm doing my own research. When I said no to the spinal cord stimulator, he did not push that. But when he informed me about the dorsal ganglion root stimulator, he encouraged me to read the material about it. And unlike the spinal cord stimulator, it is very targeted, and it is designed for people with CRPS. And there's been success for people with lower limb. And so everything that I had seen, it looked like I had a decent chance. Much better chance than with the spinal cord stimulator. What he wanted to do was admit me to the hospital with where they would put like a multiple day epidural. My insurance at the time wouldn't cover that. My insurance wouldn't cover outpatient epiduraling or any of those things that he wanted to do. So my insurance would, however, cover shoving this invasive thing inside of me. So we canceled our plans for going to the convention we were supposed to go to that weekend. Luckily, we weren't in Maker's Market or anything at that con, and we did the dorsal ganglion stimulator trial. And it was not successful. In fact, first of all, let me tell you this. The people were great. The woman who was tracking my progress, I explained to her that I had a real problem talking on the phone, and that I didn't want to talk to her on the phone. I did not want to explain my feeling, my progress, that kind of thing over the phone. And I didn't want to talk on the phone unless it was an emergency. And so she exchanged incredibly long text messages with me. And so I actually had to talk to, for that, it wasn't my doctor, it was my doctor's colleague. Because at the time there were like 2 doctors in the entire US who were like actively at that exact point doing that, using the dorsal root ganglion stimulator. I keep trying to spell it out because it's DRGS, and so I'm like trying to spell it in my head. So anyway, they were great. And I would encourage anyone who has lower limb CRPS, who has been told that they are a good candidate, to consider it, because I wish it had worked for me. If it had, I mean, it would, first of all, I would be much better off right now. Second of all, I mean, it's so innovative now. Like, they literally, when you have your permanent one put in, you control it with your phone. Like, the old ones where you had to like have this battery pack and all this stuff, like with the spinal cord stimulators, that's all gone. But Anyway, so the thing that I was terrified of with spinal cord stimulators is because I knew someone who had a spinal cord stimulator and would get randomly shocked by like the spinal cord stimulator. And that terrified me. That is one reason why it was never on the table for me. I had been guaranteed that could not happen with this device. And the one that was implanted so that it affected my lower leg was fine. It didn't relieve a lot, but it relieved some. And if I had it turned off, like I had to turn it off to drive, that kind of thing. I had to turn it off because I had my EMG for my carpal tunnel during the time I had that thing in me. So I had to like turn it off for that and stuff. But I mean, if I had it turned off, it was fine. If I had it on, it was fine. The one that was actually in to control my knee, I had to have it cranked up as high as I could stand it in order to function, because any lower and it was just like having a jackhammer in there. And then every once in a while it would just be on a different level, like it would just jackhammer away, and it was so weird. And I don't know if that's just because of how long I've been dealing with this, or if it's because of just like something with like the way that my body's wired, or if it's because like I have some spinal issues that we haven't completely had a chance to like figure out, and that had anything to do with it. But regardless, it didn't work for me. And around that time is when we figured out my insurance was going away, and so now it's just been okay, pain meds and wait, pain meds and wait. Pain meds don't actually help enough to make me even fully functional. They just make it so that I can show up to work, show up to events, be a person, sort of like I don't have days where I'm not at like an 8 or a 9 all day. I don't have days where I don't wake up in pain. I have pain when I'm sleeping. The pain is the first thing that I feel when I'm waking up. Pain has made me a different person. Pain changed my ability to have relationships and to fix relationships. It has changed what I want to do with my life and what I expect I can do with my life. It has taken a PhD off the table, because even if I get better, the amount of damage that has already been done to my body and to my cognitive process from the pain, the pills that are prescribed, the trauma of the procedures, all of that has really changed what I'm gonna be able to do. But I still have stuff I really want to do. I want to get the art stuff off the ground. I want there to be a place for my friends who are artists to keep this thing going, this art thing that we're building. So I still have stuff that I want to do with it. So anyway, So how it ended up with the GoFundMe thing is my doctor, after I've run the gamut of all these other treatments, if I get state insurance, and I keep applying for state insurance because after I lost my full-time position, I lost my insurance. So that was in May of 2018, because this is 2019. So it was in May of 2018. I have applied for state insurance like 3 or 4 times. I have looked at marketplace insurance. There is none that covers what I need. Period. There just isn't. So getting marketplace insurance, period, is pointless. Let alone the fact that I don't make enough to pay for marketplace insurance. And then the deductible is so high that would make it, again, pointless, redundant, again. Initially, I got a letter for Cobra, same thing, unaffordable and pointless, didn't cover what I needed, didn't even begin to. Looked at state insurance, then was rejected, appealed once, was rejected. Donnie, my husband, could not put me on his insurance for the same reason. Just, he would be paying this incredible amount of money for it to cover nothing. Essentially, it would have covered like if I'd been hospitalized. And even then, after like several $1,000s. And what I need is something that's going to cover office visits and medications and tests. So I have again applied. I applied during open marketplace. And then when it rejected me, I applied for the state insurance that it bumps you to. And it said no at that point. I was at that point teaching 2 classes, so my income was a little bit higher. Starting in January of this year, I'm teaching only 1 class. My income is really low, and I now don't have anyone else's income to add to mine when filling out forms or anything. So I have reapplied, been rejected once, am appealing again. I think that it might be a bit different this time. This time I have been asked to send in a bunch of paperwork. So this is kind of my second appeal, because the first time they asked me to send in a bunch of paperwork, but part of that time included them asking for my birth certificate. But my birth certificate is weird. I have an amended birth certificate. I don't have the name I was born with. And so my birth certificate doesn't look like everybody else's. And I do have copies of it, but I don't know where they are. And I don't know where to get another version, like where to get a copy of it. So I didn't get it in on time. This time, so then I was like, well, okay, how do I do this? And then they were like, oh, you have to apply again. You have to do it again. So this time, they didn't ask for that. They asked for a bunch of different stuff. But this time they didn't. Of course, they were just asking for my stuff, so that was easier. Than they didn't ask for my birth certificate this time. So I've sent in 2 envelopes that were this thick each. Like, I had to use 2 envelopes because it wouldn't fit in one. So I've mailed that. And I'm hoping that I will get state insurance with that, and then with that I will be able to get to go see an ear, nose, and throat doctor, because my pain specialist wants to know why when I have severe neck pain, it feels like there's something in my throat, and it could actually be like a piece of bone, and he needs to have that looked at, but that's not his area. He needs me to see an ear, nose, and throat doctor, but right at the time he was saying that was when I was losing my insurance. And there's a whole host of other doctors he needs me to see for various things and procedures he needs to do, like cervical injections and things like that, that when I have insurance I can do. One thing that will not be covered by insurance, even if I get it, is ketamine treatments. So here's what the ketamine treatments are now. At this point, we'd be looking at ketamine infusions. That is an outpatient treatment. You go in, you're at the hospital for several hours, they hook you up to an IV, you're given ketamine and fluids. You're incredibly photosensitive and nauseous and unhappy. I don't know if you're actually unhappy, but you're as I understand it, pretty out of it and stuff like that. I've seen one of the people who is very vocal online about CRPS and CRPS treatment is Sophie. She has Sophie's Army on Instagram and stuff, and she's had series of these treatments. And so I've watched her stuff, and Genevieve, who is G to the Vive on Instagram, has posted about them, and I believe she had the more intensive ones, but still, like the in-hospital ones. But still, I've just seen what great things ketamine can do. And so, what we would do, I've talked to my pain management doctor, and he's ready to do it as soon as I can pay for it. We would plan for three outpatient treatments. And how it would work is that I would have the treatment at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. My roommate and best friend, Mike, would go with me. He would take me up there. We would have a hotel room up there, right by the hospital, because you can get really sick from the ketamine, including a lot of vomiting. I'm an emetophobe, so if I get sick like that, I will have panic attacks. And one of the other things is it can affect your breathing. And so the combination of panic attacks and potentially affecting your breathing when you're an asthmatic is a very, very bad combination. So being close to the hospital is good in case of an emergency. Also, it can make you hallucinate. And so putting me in a car and driving me back to Indiana is a very bad idea. Even if he did have somebody else in the car to help, sitting on the interstate would just be a terrible idea. So both because it would be far more comfortable, but more importantly, because also it would be unsafe then to potentially have to then try to drive back to Rush in an emergency, because who knows because those treatments are not done out here in the Indiana suburbs, we would need to go back to Rush if there was an emergency. It's just much safer to be right there by university campus. So we would stay for one night, assuming I was not admitted or for any reason. So that's what we're raising the money for. So each treatment would be approximately, as I understand it, based on what my doctor said to me verbally, would be approximately $3,000. And then assuming the cost of 3 overnight stays in Chicago, gas, tolls, because obviously we take the quickest way. It's hard for me to sit in a car for a long period of time. Possibly depending on if he has time off, lost work, whatever. Plus the fact that GoFundMe obviously takes money off of it. We're just, that last 1,000, in that initial 10,000 is the rest of that. So that's why that's the first 10,000 of the 20,000 that we're raising. So, that's what the GoFundMe is all about. That's literally my best chance at quality of life and at being able to do those things that I want to do. The ketamine treatments could be literally life-changing. Now if we do the first one and there's nothing, or I have a really bad reaction or something like that, then the rest of the money will go toward one of the other treatments that he had considered having my insurance cover that the insurance doesn't cover. So like the epidural in hospital, putting in a medication pump. Some of these are far more invasive and more limiting to activity. That's why the ketamine is the better option. However, if ketamine doesn't work, then we have to look at things that will address the pain, even if they impact what I can physically do, if they allow me to mentally keep going. So hopefully the ketamine will work. I've seen and read so many good things about it. But first I have to be able to get in there and I have to be able to get the treatments. So I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful that I have already, as of the last time I saw, when I looked earlier today, I had already raised $235. And I'm so grateful. There are people who are donating who I know, they're artists, they're English teachers, they're people who I know are not making a great deal of money. This is not, oh, well, let me throw a little beer money in there. Like, I know that this, $50 is a significant amount, $100 is a significant amount, $15, $10 is a significant amount when A, this economy, and B, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, and who isn't right now, and especially in the arts and in education. So I just want you guys to know, like, I appreciate literally every single dollar, because every single dollar is a dollar closer. And if you can't donate but you click share, you never know that if you click share, who's gonna see it and who's gonna be like, oh, I'll donate $5 and I'll hit share, or even just I'll hit share. You never know who's going to see it. And that means the world to me. Like, I just want to feel better. I want to be able to go back to, I was a civilian first responder, always up on my, how do you say, like CPR certification, first aid certification, all that stuff. I can't do that right now because I can't take the practical tests because I can't like get on the floor and push on the dummy to show that you can do the CPR and stuff, because I used to take the healthcare level test, and I know that if I can get well enough to where I can do that, I'm gonna do that again. And I may not, even with the treatments, like I may never be able to do physically what I could. But I want to keep educating people about CRPS. I want to keep trying to do what I can to help people. On April 17th, I'm going to be speaking in front of people at the university about invisible disabilities and disabilities in education. And I never, ever thought I would do that, because I'm going to out myself as having CRPS in front of whoever is in that room. And that includes maybe my boss, like my new boss, my new department head who doesn't know me, and whoever else is there. And I never would have done that. But you know what? If I don't, then how can I tell my students that they should go out there and try to change the world, and that every voice counts? And how can I sit here and say to you, every dollar counts, every share counts, if I'm not willing to put my mouth and my butt where the statement is, because every word counts. So to everyone who is donating their time to click share, or to tell someone about this, or to tell someone about these clips that I hope will one day either be a documentary or lead to me getting a more cohesive documentary. To everyone who sits through these videos, you guys are awesome, and I really appreciate you, because you never know. Flip of a coin, anyone could be in this position. And I want to make sure that I can do something toward, if it happens to someone else, there being more information out there. Because, yeah, I'll sit down and read medical journals, but not everybody has that accessibility. And I'm not even just talking about being able to read them and like being used to reading academically. I mean, I have access to that stuff through the university, but not everybody has that kind of access. So we can do a lot more together than we can individually, even though Pikachu disapproves. That's my disapproving Pikachu. You're gonna see him a lot in my videos, my pictures, stuff like that. That's okay. Pikachu might disapprove most of my others. My pink alpaca, or llama, whatever, My undead one. He's happy, right? All right. So, again, the GoFundMe's up. Please share it, even if you can't donate money. Donate the 2 minutes to share it, please. And if you got all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for listening. And I'm Jade Greenberg, otherwise known as Shadow Von Cat in the art world, in the writing world. And I appreciate you, and I hope you have a good night. And to steal the line of one of my fellow poets, Moises, I hope you have breakfast tomorrow.